With me here is the 2024 Mercedes EQE SUV 350 Plus. This is the range-topping rear-drive model, and the EPA claims it'll do 307 miles on a single charge. Today, we're going to test that in our first ever real-world, real-time range test. It's going to take most of the day, so let's get started. All right, to get things started, I put the car into its intelligent recuperation mode, which works both on navigation directions. I've set a destination that's 137 driving miles away. Computer says we'll have 305 total miles of range, though it will say we arrived there with 49% state of charge. So we may be pushing it when we turn around to come back to this very charging station later in the day. But time's a-wasting, so let's get going. One of the things that this Mercedes has is augmented reality satellite navigation. So it'll pop up a front camera view and show you exactly where you need to turn and merge and stuff on the display. Now this car doesn't have a heads-up display, so I don't have directions there. So you do have to look down at the screen, but it is pretty helpful, I think. I'd like to see it projected up onto the screen like some car, or onto the windscreen like some cars can, but you know, beggars, choosers, all that jazz. And this truck has to yield and definitely didn't. That's a yield sign over there, turns out. And this guy decided to not do that. Anywho, as we merge out onto the highway here, I will talk to you a little bit about what this test will entail, how we're executing it, and sort of why we're doing it. So I've marketed this as a real-world, real-time highway range test. That means you're coming along with me. You're going to see all the pros, cons, everything that could possibly go right and wrong in one of these tests. You're going to see the whole thing. While we're doing it, we're tracking the efficiency of the vehicle and sort of our average. Also, this is a very flat stretch of highway, so we're not going to really benefit a lot from regen. There'll be some, but it's not going to be the big... You're not going to get going up a hill and then down a hill kind of a situation. So this should be fairly realistic of cornfield driving. If you live in Ohio or Michigan or Indiana or Missouri or, you know, any of these, Iowa, like any of these kinds of states, like this should be a real world kind of representation of what to expect. Why are we doing it? You guys like it. Now, one thing that we're going to do is I'm not going to run the car completely dead unless it just happens to completely die. I know that, again, like Kyle will run it until it's completely dead. Matt at Carwall also does that. I don't have a big support team. I don't have somebody to help me recharge the car on the side of the highway. Don't want to have to wait for AAA. It's also kind of dangerous to run out of juice in the middle of the road. So I know neither one of those do that. They get off the highway early and drive around until it dies in front of the charging station. But it's still, like, running completely dead can be kind of dangerous. So if you do want to see us doing a test all the way to dead, I mean, let me know in the comments. Like, we can work something out. I've got an idea for a test that is a little bit interesting, that does involve driving the car completely dead. So if you want to see that, you know, let me know in the comments section. Where are we going? The car stated when we started roughly 305 miles of range. As I probably mentioned, the National RV Hall of Fame in Elkhart, Indiana was X number of miles away. So we're going to go there, turn around, and come back. So in theory, when we're done with this test, we'll be at the back where we started, so I'm not super far from home. Plus, at the end of this test, I need to redo the EV Pulse charging challenge on this because we had some Electrify America charge station issues. Who would have known? What else? Let's talk a little bit. Let me kind of set the speed here, and once we get out of this work zone, and really kind of talk a little bit about this Mercedes that I'm in, and sort of another benefit of doing this test. So one other benefit of doing this test is this is an opportunity to test the highway driving assistance technology that these cars now come more and more with. I recently did a video testing teammates in the Lexus LS 508. For all the sensors and all of it's good, it wasn't really that great. This system is completely hands-on, but when you're on the highway, it will do lane changes automatically for you. You'll still have to hold the steering wheel, and it's really kind of aggressive about it. It's really thoughtful in like how quick it does it. It's really, and it also has a certain type of lane discipline. I don't know if it's good lane discipline, but it's lane discipline. So if you're on a 3-lane road kind of like this, it'll put you in the middle lane, so you're not constantly coming to the left to avoid traffic from on-ramps. And it will put you in the exit lane if it needs to, if you are about ready to exit. So the augmented reality part on this car, which is, if we confront the Monroney here, is pretty sure it's $1,250. That's a lot of money, but I think it's worth the upgrade over the standard kind of navigation. The built-in navigation looks like it's using Google Maps data. It's got charging information, smart routing, all of that stuff. You can filter charging stations based on a whole bunch of cool things, including, but not limited to, charging speed. Woo! So all of that's cool. All of that's important. I think it's stuff these modern systems need to have. Set the cruise on, set, boom, we're on our way. What about this Mercedes? Well, it's the 350 Plus, so it is rear drive only, and it has the large battery pack. That battery pack is some size that is not listed on the Monroney, which is also strange. I'll be sure to include sort of it in the description below, just so you guys know. It's probably right around 70, 80 kilowatts though, I would imagine. 268 horsepower, 417 foot-pounds of torque, and it'll DC fast charge at up to 170 kilowatts. So stay tuned for our charging challenge video, because I think it'll do a little bit better than that. It's comfortable. It comes with something called a quote-unquote comfort suspension. There is no active adaptive dampers on here. There's no air ride. There's nothing like that. So it always kind of tends itself to be on the more comfy, posh side than the sporty side, which is fine. It's kind of what I want from a Mercedes that doesn't have an AMG badge on it. I want to waft like I'm on a cloud, and this does a pretty good job at it considering weight and everything else. The driver assistance tech stuff is really good. I really do like it. The highway lane changing stuff, which you'll see sort of demonstrated, in real time as we go along, is really good. There's a lot of cool things to like here. I like that this doesn't have the big hyperscreen. This is just kind of their standard setup. Does everything the hyperscreen does, just doesn't have one giant big pane of glass. The thing about the hyperscreen with the big pane of glass is you can see each individual screen sort of as you, especially if it's closer to dark, and that's kind of annoying. So the setup's there. In my comfortable driving position, this big instrument cluster up here, I think it's 12.5 inches. I actually can't see the top left and top right of it, which is where the turn signal indicator's on. So when I flip the indicators on, I have no idea if they're on or not. Is that a problem? Not really for me. I can hear the clicking and stuff like that. But I could kind of understand maybe why some people drive with the blinkers on with a setup like this. The rest of the interior is standard, sort of mid-level Mercedes. So the vents and stuff have a decently nice feel to them. You can still tell they're kind of plasticky. And there is a little bit of just not the greatest. Like there's certain areas, like nobody's grabbing their instrument panel like this, but some cars feel a little bit better assembled. But down where your knees are, there's lots of I think in this case fake leather, but nice and padded, so you've got a place to rest your knees. Lots of foot space, things like that. Seats are comfortable. They're not overly adjustable, which actually I prefer. And in this case, they're both heated and ventilated, though the ventilated seats are an option. There's a kind of this really kind of beautiful tan colored dash. Goes really well with this bronzish brown exterior color, which I don't know, maybe as I get older I like brown cars. No, I don't, but I do like this in the brown that it's in. It's a fantastic color. I think it fits what this car is trying to do and the messaging on that. And the ambient lighting is also cool, and it's all over in this car. Like, it's really almost like a disco at night, which is cool. But overall, the interior is nice. Some places feel a little cheap, especially for a car that has a price out the door of $87,000. But what are you gonna do? Cars are expensive. I think the biggest drawbacks here is 87 grand is a lot of money for a car that doesn't have all-wheel drive. I think that's a problem-ish, and because it doesn't have the extra motor and the big, like some of the other stuff, it just doesn't charge as quickly. So that 170 kilowatt peak rate is still good, but the EQS SUV, for example, will do 200. So I would like a little bit better performance there, I think. Ultimately, though, not a bad place to be. One other thing I'll mention, too, that this car has as an option is the 10 degrees of steering angle rear wheel steering. Get it. definitely get it. Takes a little getting used to, like when you're turning in a parking lot and you realize that you're turning quicker than maybe you thought. Like, it's not startling, it's just you can just tell. Makes it real easy to maneuver in and out of parking spaces, or if you're trying to back into a charging station that is kind of cramped with something next to it, it's really easy to do. So I would definitely spec that box. And that box, how much is that? Rear wheel steering. It is $1,300. Worth it. Worth it. Now we're 11 miles into this. We're 307 watt hours per mile. Have no idea what that is. I hate doing math. The Germans like to do watt hours per mile. I like to do miles per kilowatt. The EPA does kilowatt hours per 100 miles. Everybody does their own thing. Shocker. One cool thing, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the camera super duper well, but if you pull up the Mercedes EQ menu, it will tell you, based on current conditions and battery state of charge, the maximum DC fast charge rate you'll get out of this car. So at a 95% state of charge, 94%, given everything going on, we'll be able to charge at a peak of 29 kilowatts. So if you pull into a 200 kilowatt charger and you wonder why you're getting 30 kilowatts out of it, well, that's why the car's only asking for that much. Because as you know, as very well intelligent EV Pulse viewers, you know that the higher the battery charge, the slower it can take electricity. This is how lithium-ion batteries work. It's how they've always worked. It's how they will always continue to work. Your iPhone does the exact same thing. Also, one other thing to note too is while we aren't necessarily running this completely dead, this still isn't representative of maybe how you would drive the car. Like, most people are gonna stop when their battery's at 10% state of charge or higher and plug in. They're just not comfortable going below a quarter of a tank of gas. We totally understand that. But one of the things about the real world aspect of this test is we're gonna test regardless of weather. So if it rains today, it rains today. It's not supposed to, but if it rains today, it rains today. If it's warmer, if it's cooler, whatever. Also, the real world aspect of it, like, I have the climate control on. It's set to 68 degrees. The exterior temperature is 71, so it's not working too hard, but I'm gonna make sure that I'm comfortable on this trip because it's gonna be a long trip and I don't wanna be uncomfortable. And neither will you if you're doing a long drive. Additionally, we can't really account for traffic. Now, we're on a road with 3 lanes. Typically, traffic congestion is only ever a problem if there's an accident that needs to close the entire highway, but it is a possibility, you know? And typically, behind the scenes baseball here, we only get these cars for a week. They're dropped off on a Monday and they pick them up on the next Monday. And depleting batteries takes time, driving takes time, turns out. And we don't necessarily have a ton of time to do it. So some tests will be more thorough than others, but like I said, I need to redo the charging challenge video for this, or the test part of it, so that we can include more data in that video. So why not introduce a new video segment to the masses? That's why we're here. But Chad, why aren't you listening to the radio? YouTube copyrights. I'm already bored. No. I mean, I am a little bit. This Valencia travel trailer, maybe they're going to the RV Hall of Fame. I wonder if RV buyers go to the RV Hall of Fame. Don't know. Don't have one. I was looking at their streams the other day. Talk about expensive. But they are some of the only ones that hold their value. Once during all of my talking, you would have noticed that the car did a lane change by itself. It's the only time that it's done it. I'm kind of leaving it to its own devices, but now that the highway has dropped to 2 lanes, I wonder if it's going to attempt to do that, attempt to fix some stuff. Probably not, probably just camp in this lane. But I do like the idea that it has some sort of lane discipline, especially being German. Like, you have to have lane discipline on the Autobahn or you'll get rear-ended. Equinox, no Equinox EVs. Well, that's too bad. I'm gonna ask for a lane change to dip in behind this Valencia to let some traffic go around. Now, I did the lane change itself. I just held onto the wheel. It indicates, it looks, it does all of that. Now, there is a really cool, it's gonna be kind of hard to see again from your view, but there is, I'll try to get a video of it later, but there is a really effective driver assistance display on the instrument cluster that will show you all the cars around you and where they are and what they look like and what they're doing. It's very similar to sort of the display on a Tesla, kind of showing what's going on and what needs to. You can request lane changes by hitting the indicator, which I did here to get out of this car's way, or it'll do it sort of left to its own device. Puts a little track, like a little bogey tracker on the car in front of you too. Kind of feels like you're in Top Gun, like, I'm too close, switching the guns. This toll road is a pretty nice bit of highway. They do a lot of construction, but with the road being privately owned, they sort of have the funds and resources to do that. And they've recently changed too that they're gonna have at speed tolling, so you don't have to slow for gates and things like that. If you have an easy pass, which I do, which is also nice, though rates keep going up on it, which is not nice, but it's a road where you can kind of be guaranteed you don't have a ton of traffic. Right now we can peak charge at 38 kilowatts if we needed to. Woo! I really do like the MBUX interface. I call it MBUX. Mercedes doesn't like it when you call it MBUX. But it's quick. It's really responsive in this car. Really responsive. And it's quick at calculating, quick at rerouting, shows you real-time traffic, shows you estimated time in traffic. It's as good as what, I mean, it's as good as Google Maps for sure. It's not necessarily good as Waze because you're not doing, incident reporting and things like that at that level. But if you're a Google Maps user, this is, oh hey, automatic lane change. Woo! If you're a Google Maps user, like, just use the built-in. It's really, this does support wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. You can definitely use those. You don't necessarily get all the dynamic route planning. And honestly, I think in this car, I haven't done a real, like, hey, here's a route plan, we must do a charging stop kind of thing. But it does seem to have decent intelligence about it when it tried to add some stuff earlier for me for something else. So we should probably devise some sort of test to test that system, because, like, again, General Motors is pulling CarPlay and Android Auto out of its cars because Android Automotive built in, they claim, is a much better, more integrated experience. So, and I think it can be in some cases, or at least on par. So as that time sort of progresses, we'll probably have to come with some sort of testing like that. Now, it put me in the left lane here, even though there was nobody here, presumably because there's an exit ramp, and actually, I don't know. It just left lane changed and right lane changed for no reason. I just passed an invisible car. Thanks, Mercedes. I also turned off the Hey Mercedes function because anytime you get close to saying the word Mercedes, it pops on. It's like, how can I help you? I don't want you to help me. I'll press the button if I need help. Ride quality is pretty excellent, not gonna lie. You could do a lot of miles in this car, a lot, and be perfectly happy. Pay toll ahead. No. Now the car just suggested a few minutes ago that there was a map update and it needs to restart navigation in order to update it, so I told it to not do it. But I wonder if I do it with a destination set, it'll reset the destination when it comes back online. Or try it after we go through this toll plaza. Activating navigation. Please wait. Okay, came back online. Oh, and the directions were set properly.
Please follow the road for 50 miles. The route includes toll.
The car just randomly chose to slow down. Not really sure why. Didn't adjust the speed. I know that it is set to do some smart speed changes based on route and conditions. That was weird though. Maybe it's like, oh, you should slow down a little bit before going through a toll plaza, but you don't need to slow down all the way. Weird. Cup holders hold a big Celsius. It's got a nice little clip on it. They kind of adjust size depending on your drink. Important on road trip. Muy importante on a road trip. There's a fly in here. That was me just plugging in a power source for the lavalier. A microphone. Because in theory, they should be able to stay charged while we're doing things. I am using the USB-C plugs in the car, so I don't know, the rear seat ones, so I don't know how much power they're actually outputting. Hopefully it's like 15 watt and not like 5 watt. The fun thing about this is if I do this with like the Fiat 500e, I won't have to drive that far. Well, 150 miles of range, yeah. And I think I will do it with the Fiat 500e. I'm getting it next week. Next week as I'm recording this, maybe not next week as you hear this. Do a charging challenge on that as well. I think that peaks at 50 kilowatts, so not much, but it's a small car, a little runabout, not designed for long journeys. Unlike this car, which will drive forever. Another automatic lane change. When you hear that prompt, bloop, that's usually the car like hey, I'm about to do something, stand by. So past the last truck in that lane, car sees that it's clear. It should, yep, there we go. It's really good at doing that. It's not confusing like teammates. There's a nice arrow on this display that shows you exactly what the car is doing exactly at that moment. It's hands-on, but it's really good. It's definitely worth, I think, again, it's around $1,200, $1,300, I think, to get the package. That includes this highway driving tech that I'm sure Mercedes has some weird capital name for, like Drivetronic or Distronic or whatever tronic. Here, let me actually look it up. I will look it up for you, dearest listeners. Driver assistant package with active distance assist Distronic. Stop and go, active steering assist, pre-safe plus, pre-safe impulse side. I don't know. It's $1,250. That's also with the augmented reality stuff. Do it. Do it. Oh, and the exclusive trim, $850, that has the augmented reality for navigation. So sorry. So to get the augmented reality, you gotta spend $1,250 plus $850, but to get the cool driving assist stuff, you just need the $1,250. This car also has a $1,200 digital light package, which allows the interior ambient light to do things. Don't know if I really find that all that useful. And it upgrades the headlights to matrix LEDs, which in North America are useless. But what it will do is steering, it's not completely useless. Start up, shut down, you'll see an animation sequence projected in front of you. And at night, which is really hard to show on camera, and you're using navigation or the lane assist, stuff like that, it'll actually project onto the road in front of you what it's doing as another visual kind of cue, which is kind of like the ultimate heads-up display, right? Like if it can put a road sign on the road in front of you. It's really clever. Necessity? No. Clever? Yeah. I think if I were speccing this, I would want the rear wheel steering because, gosh, it makes every car just so much more maneuverable. And I would spec the extra safety stuff, like so I can do what we're doing here. Other features, I'm not sure I really feel all that much affinity towards. Oh, this Mustang's gonna get busted because he sped right up on this highway patrol in a work zone. You're going to jail. Probably not jail. He has brakes pretty hard though. Yeah, you're doomed, buddy. It's weird. He got over in a lane, but the guy didn't get behind him yet. Oh, there we go. We had to finish running the plates. Time to get into the left lane. Don't speed through work zones, kid. Definitely not in yellow Mustangs, and definitely don't rapidly come up and slam on your brakes in front of a state trooper. All those things not good. Oh, he got out of that car quick. On the good news front, the estimate is now 50% state of charge when we get there instead of 49. So I feel slightly more comfortable about the return trip, making it back to that charger without having to fail out. In Indiana, nearly every service plaza has a CCS fast charger along with the Tesla supercharger, and that's really helpful. In Ohio, there aren't as many stops on this side of the state, but there's still an okay number of bailout options in case you need them. I like this fresh pavement. Ooh, fresh pavement, favorite thing. Especially in a car that's already quiet, you're just like, oh, the life. Like, oh, you think business class on an A350 is the life? No. Brand new fresh pavement, luxury car, waft along. Right now, the $86,000 feels worth it. It's a lot of money for a base level car. Yeah, there's a decent number of options, but yeah. So the car saw the speed limit sign change from what we were doing and then automatically adjusted the speed down. Probably a good call considering that Mustang definitely got its butt handed to it by the Ohio State Police. The thing about these work zones is they often slow you down super duper early. So traffic around me hasn't quite adjusted to the new speed. But this is where also state police will sit and bust you too. Hold it. You're in a work zone. Nobody's working right here. Now this will go down to one lane here in a minute. And let's take this opportunity to do a sit rep. We are 50 miles into the drive, 42 minutes, average speed of 71 miles an hour, and we're getting 345 watt-hours per mile. Lower is better. And then the work zone ended, nobody was working, and the speed limit went back up to 70 miles an hour. Because of course it did. Did it go down to one lane like the sign said? No. Are we still in this delicious, fresh paved tarmac? Yes. Oh, come on. Yeah, this Kia sped up. And the car's like, oh, that car sped up. It's okay to get back in this lane. But then it slowed back down. We're gonna try it again. Will this Kia speed up? Probably. Oh no, this time they did not. From Illinois. The fuel door's not shut all the way though. Reach out and smack it shut. So one thing I activated on this Mercedes is the 30 minutes of free Electrify America charging for 2 years. So I went to 100% at the charging station this morning for free 50. Yes, I should know. We did start at 100%. We started from that charging station. And we'll end up at the charge. Other interesting things in the car that you notice as you're on a long road trip. This has the HEPA filter upgrade package. I think it's $450 because of course it is. Yes. Energizing air control plus with HEPA filter. But it does have that particulate matter filter down to whatever, 2.5 or whatever. Right now it's 1 PM 2.5. I saw 3 or 4, but at some point, because the air quality got a little bit worse. But air quality around here typically isn't too bad unless you have all of the Canadian wildfires that we had, last year. That really had some bad days. But if you do have allergies, you're probably going to want to spend the $450. Kind of wish they included it. Volvo, I believe, includes it, if I'm not mistaken. But there became a lot of focus during 2020 on sort of in-cabin filtration and HEPA filtration and stuff like that, as we all became very aware of how diseases travel through the air because COVID was airborne. An all-white Toyota Crown. Limited. I haven't seen it in like a solid color. All the ones I've seen are two-tone. Not sure how I feel about it in solid color. It's interesting to look at. I don't know if it's conventionally attractive, but it's interesting. And not like in a Cybertruck interesting, which is just ugly. I haven't been able to get behind the looks of Cybertruck. I'm sorry. I want to. I try to. It's hard. I keep seeing them. I'm just like, nope, cow. But unlike in Twisters, the cows are fun. It's more a chicken rooster situation in Twisters, where it was a cow in the original. Spoiler, I do like the hands-offness of Super Cruise, but I will say I like this system a lot better than I thought I would. It doesn't seem to be completely obsessed with driver monitoring, which it probably should be. It's not. But being a hands-on system, it really is only looking to make sure my hands are on the steering wheel. So there isn't, I don't notice an additional sensor necessarily watching my face, things like that. So the system probably could never be upgraded, at least in this car, to a hands-off without that additional hardware. But I mean, you can rest your hand on the steering wheel in a pretty comfortable position. It will never bother you as long as you're paying attention. I really like it. Good job, Mercedes. All right, right lane closed, 1 mile. So it says, I'm actually going to cancel the system here, because I'm not sure, depending on the last work zone, things like that, so just the last non-existent work zone. Oh no, this is actually people are getting over into the correct lane. Well, that's good. So I'll re-enable the system, but I don't want you to get out of this lane. So I re-enabled the system, and it immediately wanted to put me in the right lane. No, cancel. There we go. It sees the cones too, finally, on the display, so hopefully it's not going to try to lane change me into that, hopefully. So I'm not quite entirely sure how I'm going to edit this video. I've considered just putting it up completely in sort of its raw form, kind of like what I did with the teammate video, so it is a complete real-time transition. Or I may attempt to remove some of the dead spot, like where there's no yapping at all. I have a tool that can kind of help make that a little bit easier to do. So not sure what version of this video you'll end up seeing. He'll be journeying along with, oh, you can come along on that journey with me as well. Hummer, says the truck in front of me. I think GM would have a trademark on that. Probably do. It's probably not close enough to be a trademark violation. Construction. Oh, I almost feel like going through the toll reader lane where you have to slow down for the gate. Might be quicker in this case. Why are we going so slow? Way under the speed limit. Was Flying J up on the right, according to the navigation, has a 350 kilowatt charger, which must be that new GM Energy installs. So I know of the one sort of that I've go to. There's another one in Southeast Michigan, sort of in the Toledo area. This must be new here, though. Still, I think, technically in Ohio, but those are clever because they've got canopies and right next to the restroom. Like, they're really nice set for the most part. And until Iona kind of does its thing, they're really the charging stations I would probably personally seek out. Let's see if I can tell from the expressway if they've got the canopy. No, they don't. But they're still off to a good side, and it's still a good charging location. So still would recommend, not as highly, though, as the ones that have the canopy and the extra lighting. Thank you for traveling the Ohio Turnpike. Please drive safely. Okay, because you asked. More to discover. Indiana. Established 1816. Indiana, the state you have to drive through to get to Chicago. Indianapolis is a nice city, for what it's worth. Lots of racing heritage and pedigree. Rest of Indiana, though, corn. Lots and lots of corn. And whatever a Hoosier is. So this company will pay up to 75 cents a mile. Owner-operators, though. So you're going to have to lease the truck. So that's going to come out of your 75 cents a mile. Long haul and local positions available. $24 an hour for local deliveries. Probably not terrible. Not great. Not terrible. 75 cents a mile, though. I mean, that's reasonable-ish. I feel like, I don't know. I'm not a long haul trucker. I don't know. 75 bucks for every 100 miles? Diesel is expensive. As an owner-operator, you're going to have to buy your own diesel, from my understanding. So they kind of hook you in, like, here, we're going to offset all these costs that, you know, we can't really control. We're going to push that onto the driver. You can probably make all right money, especially if you did long haul and never went home. A lot of work, though. Driving's tiring, man. I'm already tired. Sleepy Chad is sleepy, which is why I have a 240 milligram Celsius. We are 57 miles away from the RV Hall of Fame. That's the first time it said that I'm approaching a toll booth. Like the whole day that I've been approaching toll booths.
Toll booth in half a
So this car doesn't exactly have one pedal. So this car doesn't exactly have a one pedal driving mode, but if you have smart recuperation or the intelligent recuperation on, and there's a car in front of you and it comes to a stop, it'll put you to a stop and it'll hold you there like a one pedal. So like, I don't understand why that's the only way to kind of get one pedal, but like, that's kind of the only way to get one pedal. Sorry about that last minute change there, but this car in front of me is having, this Jeep over there is having issues with the gate. And they're still back there at the gate, so good call, I'm moving. So when you put your foot all the way down in this car, like there's some interior cabin noise thing, but like as you sort of accelerate, like you get some weirdish engine noise. But if you put your foot all the way to the floor past the kick down point, it like runs like this bass thing through the subwoofer, which you might not be able to pick up on the mic, but it just goes boom, like it's weird. Like, I don't know what it's going for. But, like, first time you do it, you're like, what is this noise? Because it's got a lot of the fake noise, that's fine. But it's just like a bomb goes off when you put your foot down. So you're expecting, like, lightning quick acceleration. And it's 260 some horsepower, so it's not. Let's do another sit rep while we've got the time. 338 watt hours per mile. I like having the assistance display up when I'm driving like this, because again it shows you all the cars and stuff around you and exactly what the driver assist system is doing. So I think that's probably my most valuable display there. But there's a classic gauge mode, and you can put the navigation stuff up on there if you want to, but I choose not to. So the USB-C charger in the back seems to be keeping the camera nice and charged up, which is good. Like to see it. I like to see it, you like to see it, we all like to see it. There are some interesting charts that you can see at the EQ menu as well. It'll do, like, show you your consumption over time, your regen over time. It's not exactly as detailed as Tesla's stuff, but they provide it, which is nice because a lot of automakers don't necessarily think you want to see that info. And I think that if you drive an EV, you might be more prone to wanting to see it if it's there. And I use the consumption of the Tesla stuff all the time because one range display says one thing, but I like going on the last 30 minutes of my driving habits. I think that's the best way to kind of determine what your real world range is going to be. I really don't think you need more than 300 miles of range on an EV. I really don't. I think a lot of us spend time, when we spend time in the car, you know, a lot of us are sitting in traffic and it feels like we're constantly in the car, but you're not actually moving. Yeah, sure, in the car, you're spending time in it, but you're not covering a lot of ground. With this light traffic and stuff like that, we're covering a ton of ground for the time that we're in the car. And I don't see a lot of people doing this type of driving all the time. I know some do, but I don't think a lot do. And I mean, you can go 2 or 3 states on a full charge here, so it's going to be able to take you to your, you know, your family, like your grandpa's house or whatever. Like, it'll be fine, And as you get bigger, as you get more range, you got to have bigger batteries. Bigger batteries means more, you know, rare earth minerals and stuff, and it just makes the car heavier. I don't know if we'll ever sort of, as a society, as a culture, get out of the mindset that we have to buy for the what if. Like, what if I need to drive across the country on a moment's notice? Okay, how often does that happen? Unless you're a transporter. But if you're Jason Statham, you know, you're doing all right in life, I suppose. So I don't know. I constantly push back saying, no, you know, we need 400, 500, 600 miles of range. I get press cars that don't have 600 miles of range and they only run on gas. Yes, I know your argument will be, oh, well, you can refill it in 5 minutes. Oh, okay. But still, you gotta stop. If you gotta stop, you're probably gonna use the restroom. By the time you use the restroom in some of these cars, especially the Koreans, the EGMPs, you're gonna be back to with enough range to get you to where you're gonna go. So I don't think it's as big of an issue as people make it out to be. I just don't, unless you have some sort of agenda around like not wanting EVs to become a thing. But I don't understand that either. Like, I understand it's been politicized and whatever, but it's just a different way to power a car. Oh, the government's going to force me to buy one. Are they? There's no mandates right now. I can go buy a Jeep Wrangler with a 392 Hemi in it and get like 8 miles to the gallon. The government don't care. You won't even pay a gas guzzler tax on that because it's an SUV and it gets through the loophole. So, really? Does the government gonna make you buy an EV? Not in my lifetime. Assuming I don't like die today, but like not in my lifetime. I don't see that happening. I don't see it happening in your lifetime. It would require so much political will that I don't think people want to do it. I think CAFE standards are going to continue to increase and you know, emissions are going to need to be cut, and I think some automakers are just going to decide that's the best way to meet those targets is by developing an EV. But there's so much negativity around EVs that also doesn't make sense, because this is a normal driving experience. It's a nice driving experience. What's it matter what powers your car if you're just bombing along on the highway or if you're just sitting in traffic? Does it matter? No, it doesn't. None of this matters. So that's the thing. Like, you know, we do these education videos and stuff to help people who may have questions, and like, because there are things different. There are things different about owning an EV than a regular gas car. Some are cool, some are just different. So, you know, what do you do? Well, we always get comments, well, I'll just not buy an EV. That's the best solution. Just don't buy an EV. Like, okay. So you don't want the government to force you to buy an EV, but you're perfectly too cool telling people that might be interested in an EV that they shouldn't buy one. Like, it's not the same thing, but it is a tiny bit hypocritical. I do like this EQE SUV a lot more than I like the EQS SUV. Maybe it's just the size weight difference. I don't know. Just this EQE, guys, it just feels nicer to drive. EQS was comfortable, but it felt its size, and this just is smaller. And I think maybe it feels its size too, and it's smaller. But I think like the EQS sedan, I really think that should be an S-Class electric, and it's not. I think that's the most disappointing about it. And the EQS SUV, I mean, it isn't much different than like a GLS, but still, it just seems like a lot of money and not quite luxurious enough. Or like an S-Class, I mean, when you're in an S-Class, you know, and I don't think the vibe carries over. I don't think that vibe carries over to the electric version, where here in the E-Class, in the sedan version of the E-Class, or the SUV version of the E-Class, like pretty nice. Again, with the caveats I said earlier regarding, I think it's a little too pricey, and I think some of the materials could be a little bit nicer. The driver assist functions are great. Range estimates and stuff seem to be on par with what you expect. It's a lot more range than an electrified GV70. More money than an electrified GV70, but I think that would be the kind of the closest comparison or the closest draw that I would make to this. And maybe the iX BMW, though I think that leans a little bit more on the sporty side than this, which kind of depends on what you're looking for. 36 miles till we exit. Woo! Oh, a couple other complaints I'm thinking about as I'm sitting here. There's no track forward, track button on the steering wheel. If you want to skip forward, you got to go down to the infotainment screen and a soft button. That's kind of annoying. Also, I don't love the touch-sensitive buttons on the steering wheel on this. They're not as bad as like Volkswagens, but real buttons are always better. The sensitivity on these are pretty good. Like if I had to have on the steering wheel touch-sensitive buttons, these are probably the best ones to have, but I'm not sure why we have to reinvent the wheel with that. A Dutch Farm Trucks has Learn Dutch on the side and teaches you Dutch as you drive. Well, that's clever. That's clever marketing. I didn't learn how to say butter because I didn't pay enough attention, but that's cool. And there's a bank of Tesla superchargers near at this stop. Are there any CCS level 3s, DC fast chargers? Can't tell, looks like maybe. They're not on the map here, but once every car has NECS, J3400 NEX, whatever you want to call it, and you'll be able to stop there too. Unless you have a Ford or a Rivian, and you can do it right now. And I did reset the trip computer for this stuff. I did reset it about a mile after we probably started driving, so I'm just gonna kind of bear that maybe a little bit in mind. My bad, as I'm sitting here thinking about it. It should not dramatically affect anything, so not super concerned. 332 watt hours per mile, 111 miles, 1 hour 34 minutes, average speed 71 miles an hour. I just wanted to be a ride announcer at Cedar Point. I always seemed like I know Cedar Point employees, I know people that work there, so like it's not the best summer experience, but I just like the announcers like, welcome back Raptor riders, how was your flight? Like you have to word it a certain way, like it's funny. It's funny. Enjoy the rest of your day here at Cedar Point, America's rock and roller coaster. Then they're like, ready. But yeah, ride operators at Cedar Point, pilots, they all have to talk a certain way when they're on the radio. Like there's a really funny bit in Family Guy where Quagmire meets another pilot and asks like, what's your record for and they're like, it's so good. Good bit. Oh, well, from the flight deck. Oh, like it's cool. It's fun. That's fun. Excuse me. It's very interesting how much vehicle technology has advanced in my lifetime. Because when I first got my driver's license, cars were just kind of starting to get stability control and realizing, and you could still buy new cars to that date that didn't have the anti-lock brake. Chrysler was notorious, I think, for being one of the last people it felt like to have like ABS standard. My friend's Dodge Neon didn't have, I'm sorry, it was a Plymouth Neon. It was an Espresso. EXPRESSO, not Espresso like the coffee, because funny. That car didn't have anything on brakes, so very weird. And like, I had a car at a Pontiac Sunfire that had a Monsoon premium stereo. Just don't remember the Monsoon commercials because that GM sort of stereo brand partnership debuted in the Hummer H1, and like there's a commercial where it was just pouring down rain and you were listening to quality audio. It sounded pretty good, actually. You know, this was before satellite radio or anything. Had a CD player, but before HD radio for sure. But it sounded pretty good. You know, and now we have like just built-in navigation with real-time traffic and deeply integrated with the car, so it knows everything that's going on. I've got this master situation display in front of me that's like I'm piloting a starship, or I'm on a more detailed information than I'd get like on an F-14 from Tom Cruise's original Top Gun era. Like insane amounts of just display functionality and processing power and safety tech and situational awareness. There's a full sensor suite on here that can see everything. Can see more than I can see. And I understand how that can lull a lot of people into a false sense of security, which is why you have to stay diligent as a driver. But that diligence, diligence is hard for humans. So we're at this sort of level of semi-automation that you still have to be diligent, you have to pay attention, but it's good enough that it can lull you into a false sense of security, which is why I think people love Tesla's quote-unquote full self-driving so much. It's because it lulls you in, oh, it's great. But the fringe case is where people get hurt, and that's just whatever. But the tech overall, I mean, just it's amazing where we are in the 20 years that I've been driving. And what's available at all levels too. I mean, so much safety tech comes standard now that, adaptive cruise was like kind of a thing that I always kind of wanted when it first introduced. Oh, this would be amazing for highway driving. Now just every Toyota has it, and a pretty good system too. And now there's these hands-off driver's assistance and things like that. Like, people are like, well, where's my flying cars? And some people are still working on eVTOL and stuff, but that's not what I want. I mean, it's not that I don't want it, but that's not the future that I think we should be spending a ton of money working, because the tech has really come a long way here. But it also makes certain cars feel old or dated. You drive a car that's even 5 years old now that has its modern tech in there then, and you'd be like, whoa, wait a minute, this is old. Which is why Bugatti is so focused on removing all the major screens and stuff from the car, because they don't want it to feel old in 5 years or 10. Tech can really do that, because I mean, when I first got my driver's license, it was right before I got a Motorola StarTAC phone, which I loved with StarTAC because of the trekking and flip it open like a communicator. I mean, that was the whole point. But that today feels like a relic. But people are driving cars today that are as old as that phone, and that tech is old. So some people think cars are built cheaper these days to be more of a consumable item. I think in some cases I agree. I think something like a Tesla, honestly, I think is really built to be more of a consumable replacement, just because the build quality is kind of poor. It's gotten better. I mean, it really has gotten better, but there's still things that I think Tesla misses during the assembly process that other automakers get right. A new sit rep, so I shouldn't be surprised that I see this, considering he was stopped for speeding. But that Mustang that was stopped a while ago, He's caught back up with me. So clearly the lesson wasn't learned, or the fine not expensive enough. But you know you're hosed when the police officer has to get into the breakdown lane and slow down so that you'll overtake him so they can get behind you to pull you over. Like once he did that, if I were this guy, I would have just stopped. Like not in the breakdown lane, I'd have got over in a safe spot and just stopped. Lights on or not. Because you know you're dead to rights. 9.8 miles to our destination, which is our halfway point, but still. So I couldn't tell if the GT500 or GT350. The 350 has that beautiful 5.2 flat plane crank V8. Lots of problems with it, but amazing. Wouldn't work. Though I can't imagine he got away without a citation. But maybe it's just the cost of doing business in Ohio. Factor into your cross-country road trip budget. Oh, I'm going to get pulled over for speeding in Ohio. Probably true. So it doesn't have me getting off of the next exit, but I can't tell navigation-wise. Like, it looks like the destination flag is literally on the expressway, which I know the RV Hall of Fame is next to the expressway, but it shouldn't be putting me, it shouldn't say that the turnpike or the toll road is the destination. Yeah, I was a 350. Beautiful engine in that car. Beautiful. Anyways, I think it's very possible that it's just gonna say that on this highway is that destination. I feel like that's not actually good enough. Though it says there's an exit also in 5 miles, so maybe, but it doesn't seem like it's prompting me for an exit. So we'll see. We'll see what this navigation system does. I've never actually been to the RV Hall of Fame. I see it when I drive by and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But beyond that, it's interesting on the display here, like it'll show the arrow, but it won't beep. And it's just kind of like, hey, I'm looking for a spot. I'm planning on doing this. Just so you know, I'm planning on doing this. But none of that display stuff, the arrow, the vehicle changing, anything like that, none of that shows up in the classic instrument cluster display. You have to be on the driver assistant instrument cluster setting. Almost wish I could see this with the round instrument cluster inside, but I guess whatever. I also don't need the classic Mercedes gauges. But that's the only place where you can pop up the trip computer really kind of effectively too. So kind of switching back and forth. So some usability things there that I think would be a little bit better if I designed the user interface for this car, but didn't. I just took over the system here. Don't really know what's going to happen up here. Well,
to the left.
See, that doesn't work. I can't just get to it off of the toll road. Like I have to exit.
In half a mile left. Car restricted access.
Yeah, because it's not how you get to the destination, right? Like it's right there, but I can't get to it from the left lane. I'm gonna have to exit.
Car restricted access.
I know where it is. It's right there. I see it. Yes, the augmented reality was pointing that out.
For 4 miles.
Just so very weird. Anyways, I didn't actually need to go there. I was just looking for, a stopping point, a place to turn around. We've got 55% state of charge, so we should get back with 10%. We might actually need to burn some more energy, which I guess is good. Well, one thing that I will do is we'll get up and go, ooh, this is just a roundabout. All I gotta do is go around in a circle. Circle, circle, circle. Like the whole Amazon warehouse. Here we go. It's actually really convenient. I'm gonna stop here though, just to reset the navigation to put in a useful direction, which I will now do. Find where we are. Oh, it's Michigan. Pure Michigan. Now, interestingly, this charger up there, it showed up. It wasn't on here the other day.
Flee to the highlight.
Onward and upward.
A charging station's been added to your route. Route includes toll road.
I don't actually need a charging station added to my route because I'm going to a charging station.
Now let's I-80 East Ohio.
So now it's going to have me get there at a 18% state of charge because in 82 miles it wants me to stop and charge. But EQ, I am not going to be doing that. Mercedes EQ. No, I had to use all the energy there, because there was a semi in that lane, and I was going to beat it. So there. Bye, RV Hall of Fame. I don't know how I would get to you, so I don't know why the navigation did that, but hey, whatever. We're now heading in the other direction. So I am actually going to remove that charging stop. There we go. So now
a charging station has been added to your route. The route includes toll road.
It really wants me to add a charging station.
Has been added to your route. Route includes toll road.
Don't plan charging stop.
The route is being calculated. Follow the for 55 miles.
There we go.
The route includes toll road.
Which conservatively, it was probably a good idea, conservatively, to to add that charging stop, I think, to make it ideal for drivers. But I think that I'm going to arrive at like 10% state of charge, so I'm not super worried like maybe I was when I first left, because at 53% state of charge, I originally thought I was going to arrive at 49 and I maybe would end up a tiny bit short, but this car's been pretty efficient. It's not giving me an arrival state of charge estimate yet, though, which is also a little interesting, but I'm not super concerned, because it says 158 miles, 133 to destination. Plenty, especially if that guessometer is based off of my last driving habit. These are the things, though, friends, that I do for you. Yeah, it's not giving me a range estimate or a guesstimate when I arrive. Weird, unless you have to have the automatic charging station turned on for it to show it, because it should be given an estimate by now, and it's not. Weird. Could just cancel the route, but then, like, what's the point then? Because then it still won't be able to show me the arrival sort of charging state of charge, because it won't know where I'm going. And I like being able to see the real-time traffic. Though we may have to do a loop, because I do want to make sure that I'm at a certain state of charge for when I film the second charging challenge test, because reasons. But basically where this EA station is, there's one across the highway too, and then there's one of the new Flying J installs at the end of like this loop that you could just drive around. So there's lots of charging opportunities if you're willing to drive around in circles on the highway for a little bit. Or I could take it out of eco mode, but that defeats the purpose of, like, I think if you were really going to do a range, if you were really going to drive on range, you'd have it in eco mode, because why not? I do notice it dulls the throttle quite a bit. You still put your foot down to get maximum acceleration, but that initial, like, I don't want to say bite, that initial tip in is much not dumber, duller than, much more damped than it would be in normal driving mode. Sometimes it sees a 65 truck speed limit sign and adjusts my speed down. I just have to reset it, but I've only had to do it like twice. That's not a huge deal. I won't do it, but I should live stream, because then I could, like, answer questions. But then I would need somebody with me reading the live stream to read the questions. So I could sit here and anticipate questions you have, but that would be silly. I'm already doing enough talking to myself, aren't I? So as far as I can tell, with the automatic headlights on in this car, it puts all of the exterior lights on in DRL mode, but the front headlights are really, 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 really dim. So they're on because they show on this display, and I checked the other day, they were on, but they weren't full bright. I kind of don't like DRLs that use like the actual headlights themselves on, because I think you could do other interesting design things without it that are still visible, but all of the exterior lights are on, even with the auto setting in full sunshine, which is probably actually good. I noticed a couple of Volvos have done that. I don't know if maybe it's a European regulation that just, there's no point in turning it off when they bring it over here. But the more visible you are, the better, honestly. And with enough people that, you know, cut you off and everything else that clearly weren't paying attention. The LEDs last forever, so it's not like you're wasting a filament bulb by staying on. I mean, there's a shelf life, there is an operation life to an LED, but it's significantly higher than a filament bulb. If I turn daytime running lights off, which means kills everything, including the really bright LED part that's the DRL part, all the lights do kick off, but then you also don't have the accent lighting. So on, please. But it's weird because it doesn't show the low beams on in this, but they're definitely on over here. And they don't show on the 360 display. That's cool though. Woo! Spin the car. But anyways, it's just the processing is the onboard graphics processing is really good in this car. Probably could use it to mine Bitcoin. No, Mercedes, I don't want you to mine Bitcoin while I'm driving. But this vehicle display is pretty cool, like where it shows, you know, the headlights and stuff are on. But it shows the indicator, it shows the brake lights if the brake lights are on. It'll even show the rear fog light if I turn that on. Like it shows the little light. It's clever. It's little things that don't really matter, but are useful information to know. And I think the brake light one is really important because I think people aren't sure with regen and automatic like braking and one pedal driving, like I don't think they know like, hey, this is your brake lights do kick on at these points. So it's kind of cool the car shows you that in case you're wondering if your brake lights are on. There is a button that I can press to really maximize the range. So it'll be on just the default eco mode. It'll turn on these quote-unquote eco driving and functions, restrict interior stuff, and it can add up to apparently 8 miles of range. I'm not going to do that because I don't need those extra 8 miles of range, but interesting that like I can just smack that button in the center and boom, instant range. Avoid delays. Stay 10 feet back at toll plaza. Good advice, because if it picks up the car in front of you and not you, it might drop the gate and not pick up your easy pass, and boom, you're just stuck there and the gate's closed and traffic's backing up and you're being yelled at. Like, don't be antsy through toll plazas. That's a really good advice. That's a really good advice. Don't be antsy through toll plazas. At the end of the video, I will look up battery size on this. Like after we stop, I'll look up the battery size on this and convert the watt hours to miles per kilowatt and come up with a total. So you can skip ahead to that if you want. There's a chapter marker. Car still isn't giving me an estimate on what arrival state of charge will be, so it must really have to be, I must have to have the auto routing to charging stations turned on for it to show that. I'm still doing okay. It says it's 113 miles to that charging station I want to stop at, and I have 129 miles range. So it's all good. Might even loop around. Who knows? So other than the navigation hiccup, I still really like this driver assist system so far. As much as Super Cruise, I don't know. Probably not. I still think Super Cruise is probably the best of breed. And I haven't tried the allegedly hands-off Tesla full self-driving 12 point whatever. I'll find a car, we'll do the test, we'll get there. So we don't own one, so it's a little bit more difficult than some of our colleagues, but we'll figure it out. Some other things coming soon to EV Pulse. The charging challenge, charge curve analysis of this car. Spoiler alert, it charges a little bit quicker than a little bit higher rate at points than what Mercedes claims it'll do. Yay! I haven't graphed everything out yet though from our first test that we had some issues with. Thanks, Electrify America. So I can't give you too many more spoilers than that. We will have a Fiat 500e full review. We'll film a EVOD, or EV of the Year vignette, which you won't see until the end of the year. And then we will also do a charge curve analysis with that. And I will probably also repeat this test with that. We won't go as far because it's 150 miles of range, but expect to see that in the coming week. I have some sort of BMW after that. I think it's the i4. Kind of hope it's the i5 because I haven't driven that yet, but I think it's an i4 base, like eDrive 30, which probably expects similar tests on that. And then that's it from my rotation. What's Craig working on? He has the EV Basic series. We're about ready to publish the first one, which is What is One Pedal Driving? These series are all sponsored by our friends at Michelin. One of those EV Basics is going to talk about automotive enthusiasm and do car enthusiasts exist? Do car enthusiasts exist in a world of electric vehicles? Yes, they do. We attended X Takeover a few weeks back, which used to be called Tesla Takeover, and we've got a bunch of footage from that will air during that EV Basics. Met some interesting folks for sure. Some cool cars too. I think it's really worth watching it through, even if you're not ultimately a Tesla fan, because there are some real honest-to-goodness car enthusiasts that are using an electric vehicle sort of as the platform of choice. Now it's Tesla Takeover or X Takeover, so it's mostly all Tesla stuff. And there are some people who genuinely believe that the mission is to get more people in Teslas and not to get more people in EVs, which I disagree with wholeheartedly. Like, let's get people into EVs. If it's Tesla, cool. If it's something else, cool. But there's people who think you should only buy BMW. So enthusiasts come in all shapes, sizes, and bigotry too. I tend to be on the belief that if you're into cars, you're into cars. Maybe you're not into what I'm into, and that's cool because you just have enthusiasm for the culture and the hobby. If you like a Cybertruck, cool. I don't. But if you do and you get excited about it, cool. Good for you. Great. And I'm trying to not mean that sarcastically either. Great, you're into it. Go to meets, hang out with people, talk about Cybertruck. Because we need more of that. But we also need more open-minded enthusiasts, understanding that maybe a certain type of car culture isn't you, but respecting that person exists and that they're into car culture. When I was younger, I was like, oh, I don't care for this, or I think it's silly to be into this. And as I get a little bit older, it's like, no, just being into cars, it's cool. It's cool. And how you express your enthusiasm is your business. And who am I to tell you that you're wrong? I'm not. When we review cars, we'll talk about cars that are, maybe could be better or things like that. But that's not the same thing as dumping on somebody who's into cars. I won't dump on you if you're into cars. If you think Elon Musk is your cult fan leader, I may dump on that a little bit. because I think it's cool to be into Fords, but you know, I don't expect you to be into Jim Farley. Why would you? I know over on the Stellantis, like, there's some Dodge folk fans that are really into their head designer at Stellantis, Ralph Gilles. I get that. I do. Like, he signs cars. But there was a while they were having Tim Kuniska sign cars. I'm like, that's a little, like, he's the CEO of the company. He's not really, like, he's important to the process. He's not there anymore. But he's important to the process, but he's not even like a Ralph Gilles, who is a real, like, is more directly linked, I think, to what Dodge is and does. So I could see getting excited maybe about Franz at Tesla. Man, Franz, back in the day, Mazda. So weird. I mean, it's not weird, but like, he's really come a long way. But yeah, Elon's just, I think he can be a slightly problematic leader. The stuff that he posts on X/Twitter/ whatever it's called this week, like, there's some stuff on there that I really don't agree with, and I think that a lot of early Tesla owners wouldn't agree with. But I think that's okay. I think it's okay to be critical of Elon. Still like the cars, like, cool. But you can be critical of the exact 113 miles of stated range, 127 max, 101 miles to destination, 39% state of charge, 337 watt hours per mile, 70 miles an hour. In 16,757 miles, this car will need service A2, whatever that is. All of the tires are at 42 PSI, which is spec, and the right rear is at 100 degrees Fahrenheit, while the other three are at 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything looks normal. Little bit more traffic than I expected or than I'd like. When part of the real world is, you know, you go to war with the army you have, not the army you want. Maybe I would do this in the future, later in the day or overnight. A little harder film at night, but it might be something I do. Other than I'll be really tired at night, and that's not safe. So it's an interesting trade-off. Also, people just don't know how to drive, which is also a problem. But the really clever driver assistance is really nice in this sort of traffic. Like, it kind of slows up in places and speeds up and slows up, and it's like, it's one of those, like, if you really had to pay attention to, it'd kind of get kind of annoying. So I kind of like the car kind of does that part for me. I just got to make sure it doesn't crash. Cool, easy enough. What else is coming up? I don't know. I was going to put a chapter marker in where I talked about what else is coming up back there. But I am driving the Volvo EX90 and the Polestar 3 soon, so I guess kind of stay tuned for those as well. Weird, same car, so it's not the same car, but it is the same platform, same battery, same motor, lots of the same tech. So are they the same car? In a lot of ways. There's a lot of interesting things along this route. Like the RV Hall of Fame, there's car museums, there's, you know, there's some pretty significant colleges, Purdue, Notre Dame, you get Northwestern if you get closer to Chicago, you know. It isn't just the state you drive through to get to Illinois. I mean, it kind of. Really wish this RV would get out of my way. Oh, ask and you shall receive. Thanks. Not sure what kind of RV it is. I'm not familiar with those taillights. It looks like very much a glass fiber sort of exterior. But I don't see the branding on the back. I wonder if it's a Ford body on it. It's called a Unity? Unity Leisure? A Leisure Unity? Still no branding. It's a Mercedes Sprinter underneath. That's nice. And I can't tell on the front because I can't read the mirrored image thing. I don't think it's an Airstream. Some luxury-focused one, though. Looks nice. Well, let's do some RV buying advice since we've been talking about RVs all morning. I think if you're going to do a motor coach like that, I'd probably look for a Ford Transit underneath than the Mercedes Sprinter. Just because there are more Ford dealers than there are Mercedes dealers. If you need repairs, maintenance, things like that. Just saw an Airstream go the other way being towed by a Ford Expedition. Fairly big Airstream too. Those tend to be really light, and none of them are fifth wheels, so they're all designed to be bumper pulled. They're a lot of money, and there's no tip outs or slide outs in them. They're fairly aerodynamic just because of the shape. They've kind of got this classic design. But one thing they do really well is hold their value. I really think if I were going to spend the money on an RV, I think there's more practical ones than an Airstream, especially like if you work from home and want an office. Like, You know, there's one, basically one Airstream from the factory you can buy that has, instead of bunks in the back, has office space. And I'm not sure if it's enough office space. I'd have to look at one in person for what I would need. I've seen some fifth wheels that move the bedroom up front to the back, and then make the whole up top an office, which is a lot more space. But just those, I've seen some really clever configurations with those and some really neat options, but they'll all just depreciate like a rock. And in some ways I get it, but like the Airstreams just don't seem to do it. So if you're going to travel and whatever, I think that's the way I would go. I think I'd get an Airstream, even if you don't have as much space in it. So like the one that has the office kind of in the back, and you can get it with a queen bed up front. It's not the full classic one. It's the step down. So you can't get 30 feet or 33 feet. But you know, you can bumper tow it with nearly anything. Not like a Maverick. Like you'd have to have like something a little stepped up from that. But you know, you get it with solar already installed, which is nice. Solar already installed, which is nice. You can get them with some big lithium batteries. And there's a huge aftermarket community too about helping to live off grid and stuff like that, which I think is cool. I think I'd get a Ford F-150 if I could tow it with that. I'd get the hybrid F-150 because I want the 7.2 kilowatts of Pro Power on board, and just plug my RV into that. So then you have really solid power without having to plug in, like at a location. Could also do it with a Lightning, I think. 9.6 kilowatts then of onboard, massive battery pack. The problem is eventually that truck will run out of juice if you're shore powering it that way through the truck. But I think both of those options offer up some clever ways to go off grid while still having a considerable amount of shore power, or quote unquote shore power. I think it'd be fun. I'd do it. I have no reason to live in a current spot. Go camp up somewhere, middle of nowhere, with some internet on board. Airstream offers some built-in kind of options. I wonder how configurable that is. I'd like to set up like a travel router and have whatever sort of the base offering is from whatever that provider is, but then also have a cellular modem separate, and you know, maybe even something like Starlink on top of that, so like internet work. But I also think campsites should be able to offer plug-in internet, like fiber, like for me. If I ran an RV place, I'd be like, this is the RV stop for remote worker. You pull up, there's good Wi-Fi, or you could plug in and get gigabit fiber, and kind of plan that stuff out. But that's me. And there aren't as many remote workers now in 2024 as there was in 2020. I think that's really what convinced Airstream to convert one of those into a remote work model, is because people weren't going into the office. And there's a lot of back to office mandates and stuff now, but honestly, I think that I'd still do it. It'll be fun. I won't, because that Airstream is like $150,000, and then I would need a $50,000-$60,000 truck on top of it. And yes, you can get a 20-year loan on an Airstream. They'll offer it to you because they know it'll hold its value. But if I'm working from it, I can't like put it on Resi or whatever. I have a friend that has an Airstream that puts it on. I don't think it's Resi. It's whatever the outdoor RV rental version of like Verbo is. And you know, he needs to rent it out just a few nights a year, like less than 2 weeks, to kind of like pay his entire loan on that car or on that Airstream, and then he uses it the other time. I think that's a good way to do it, but if you're living in it full time, you can't do that. Nautilus. Anyways, that's RVs with Chad. Woo! But yeah, I like the idea of the onboard power on the truck that you tow with, whether it's through the Power Boost hybrid in the F-150, which offers like real power, not just like 2 kilowatts, like real power, so you can run all of your equipment. And that is kind of nice, because then you can, you know, use the batteries on your RV. If those are dead, you just start the truck up and run it off of that, and you still get a real solid amount of shore power. GM with their Ultium full EV stuff does that, but you're stuck with a little bit of reduced towing range, bigger batteries on like Silverado, RST. I'd like to do a towing test with them, but I've asked a few times about getting a truck loan, and just hasn't come through yet. They're delivering a lot to customers. Thought about just going to Hertz, because I see them at Hertz all the time, and then borrowing my friend's Airstream and tow testing with that, especially because he's got a low distribution head. You're going to kind of want to figure out something of that size. But then not all charging stations are pull-through. Though the Flying J one near me is, which is nice. Because then you can pull in with that Airstream and not have to drop the trailer. And if you are towing, you should be dropping the trailer and not blocking other charging stations. I know it's a pain in the butt, but be a good citizen. Don't block other charging stations with your trailer if you can avoid it. Toll plaza time as we head back into Ohio. Ohio, round on both sides and high in the middle. Woo! I think the last time I did one of these, I talked about like John Glenn, first man to orbit the Earth. Ohioan, senator, good dude. Neil Armstrong, born in Wapakoneta, first person to walk on the moon that we know of. And yes, he did walk on the moon. Don't tell me he didn't. Don't go in the comments and say the moon landing was fake.
Approaching toll booth.
It's not funny. You think you're being funny. It's not funny. The world isn't flat. If you think it is, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You're weird and wrong.
You will reach a toll booth in half a mile. Caution, in a quarter of a mile.
It's like a giant cluster. There should be tractor trailer only toll plazas, toll lane. Like there's an oversized lane. Like they all should just be using the oversized. Because that's what creates this massive backup cluster. Is there's tractor trailers every single one. And this should, I understand everybody's in a hurry, but it's really, I understand the job's not easy and they're in a hurry. Just, they shouldn't be in every single one of them. Half of them, sure, but it just creates these bottlenecks and everybody gets slowed down, including other truck drivers. So, you know, when that poor person has to walk out there and try to help solve the problem with their flashing high-vis vest on. And I saw them, so I was definitely going to stop and wait and not make them wait, because that holds everybody else up too. Just be a good person. Be a good human. Not much to ask. Now 89 miles of stated range, 101 max, 80 miles to the destination. So we're definitely not as efficient going this way. I feel like maybe we're doing a lot of uphill-ish, where we're doing a lot of downhill-ish the other way. So it's still mostly flat. It feels mostly flat, but maybe it's not. Because our speed really hasn't changed much. $339 watt-hours per mile. Mike DeWine, governor. Sure, pavement smoother here though. Just like when you enter Ohio from Michigan. Pavement smoother. Drug traffickers go to prison. Well, that's good. Everything's still looking okay recording-wise. Woo! So that's cool, I guess. It said the gimbal was fixed, like the thing was locked, but I think it's definitely gimbaling a little bit as we sort of drive. So still haven't figured out the exact setting yet for the way to use this. But using this Pocket 3 is really so much nicer than using a GoPro, because I can't count on the GoPro for long recording. It'll overheat and it'll turn off. Regardless, it just gets so hot, and this seems to not be as big of a deal. Maybe I'll try some DJI action cameras instead of GoPros. I gotta buy them, and I've already got a bunch of GoPros, so it's money I don't have. Turning the Contra. Interesting taillights on that Elantra. Oh, it's a little hybrid version, yeah. This is also windy today. When I was filming the opening stand-up, the camera blew over once. So we could be now driving into the wind that we weren't driving with it before. So that could also be hurting our efficiency a little bit. We're still in eco mode, climate's still set the same, everything's still set the same. 80 miles of stated range left, 91 max, 70 to the destination. So following similar driving conditions and traffic, we're definitely less efficient going this way. But that's good, that's why we do it down and back. Let's check the camera situation, still looks good. So just doing some rough math in my head, just in case you guys are curious, sort of like on how long something like this will take. I left my house a little after 8 this morning, 8:15-ish maybe. Got to the charging station, plugged in, shot the stand-up. I'm gonna arrive back to sort of where we started the stand-up and the opening shooting at 1:30, so about 1:45 I think I'll be done with the calculations and the stand-up. And the charging challenge will take at least an hour, so that's 1:30. I'll start that before I do the closing stuff, talking to you. So 1:30, 2:33, 30-ish to 1:45, 2:45, 3 o'clock, get home, 3:30, 4 o'clock. So I mean, it's 7 hours of shooting. So like, it's not super, like I don't mind doing it, but it's not super easy to like retest something if something goes wrong. Cause that's it's almost a full kind of shooting day, which again, I don't mind doing it. Like I don't make it sound like I'm complaining. Just stuff takes time. It takes time to drain a battery. We're now basically at the 3-hour point from reset, which I know isn't quite exactly the 3-hour point for the recording. We are at 340 watt-hours per mile. Average speed sitting right at 70. And like I said, we target that 75 number I brand it as a 75 number, but it won't always average out that way. It'll probably be somewhere between 70 and 75 on most of these tests, but in theory, it'll be a little over 70 consistently, because there's times that we're going quicker, there's times that we're going slower. But at no point am I intentionally trying to exceed 75, unless there's some driving situation that requires it. So it'll never quite get to 75. Why not brand it as a 70 mile an hour test? Well, because it might not always be exactly so, and I don't want to work towards that average. Like, I don't want to slow down to kind of hit it. And it allows for a little bit of variance. Because like if I drove a whole bunch of it and it ended up being the average was 73, then at like what point do I slow down to like 65? Do I slow down to 60? Do I slow down to 40? Like, it's a lot of extra sort of math. So I set the target at 75, and we should end up somewhere over 70 when we get. Speaking of 70, that's the miles of range left. 62 miles till the destination, or a max of 80. So it's kind of allowing for multiple things. It's a little over 4 hours to fly from Detroit to LA. Just for some consideration, some bladder considerations, where I'm getting at with that. We've been 3 hours into this. An hour and 35 to go. Or not an hour and 35 to go. I'm sorry, about an hour to go. 1:35 p.m. is the arrival. It's a little less than Martin Milk Surface from Milton, Wisconsin. Wisconsin cheese curds, milk, makes sense. So we're approaching the last service plaza before the one we stop at that has, well, it's the only one. And it does have an Electrify America station. It says all 4 stations are available here, but we're still at a 24% state of charge, so there's no point in stopping. We won't need this bailout. We still should have plenty of range. Not concerned. Some people probably would stop here, though, but we don't. Don't need to. So now that I've passed the entrance to the service plaza, as of right now, which has the new EA chargers as well, I'm going to pull up the EQ menu, set route, change the settings, and hit plan charging stop.
A charging station.
So it is having me get off the highway. I thought it would just, like, in 27 miles off at 66, exit 25. No thanks. Yeah, so when I turn on the electric intelligence, when I turn the plan charging stops off, the range monitor, state of charge, destination, all of that disables. Now it looks like I can configure, like, what's the minimum state of charge, 25% of the charging station to arrive at. And I can't set that lower than that. So it looks like it'll allow you to sort of adjust, like, hey, do I want to arrive at 50%? Do I want to arrive at charge a destination? Which is good. I mean, I like being able to customization. I just wish I could drop it some. I wish I could be more aggressive, because it still is fairly conservative. But I like that it gives you that option. Like, if you know you want to arrive, because like Tesla doesn't give you, it just sort of like guesstimates a good number. If I know that I want to arrive at my route with a 50% state of charge, because I know that I can't charge at home, or I know that I'm going to need that extra range, I like being able to put that in there, because then it will say, oh look, you need to charge here and do this. I think that's clever. I know where I would use that. When we go to the Mama Spring rally every year, there isn't really charging on site, so we need to make sure there's a certain amount of range left when we get there in order for the return trip, when we start that, to be able to do that and handle that. So I definitely know where I would use that.
Route includes toll.
So I think that's clever. I just wish that I could set the minimum when you arrive at a charging station. The minimum state of charge you can like target is 25%. We know that a battery will charge the quickest from 10 to 80%. So if the minimum we're pulling in at 25, we're giving up 15% of like real peak, real meaty charging speed. So I'd like to be able to go lower in the pack there. I think for route planning purposes, I think that would be better. Though that 25% sort of minimum does a quarter of a tank. I know a lot of people don't like to go below quarter of a tank, so that makes sense sort of in the real world, but I think an EV driver is a little bit more aware of that. But I think it's clever. And I'd like to do more testing with this route sort of software and compare it to Tesla, things like that. If you'd like to see more of that, description box, do it. Hit it. I'm hungry, but I don't want to eat the Pop-Tart in front of you. Also had a drink. So I was overtaking this truck, and now I'm not, because he sped up and he keeps swerving. So I'm going to increase my speed a tiny bit. He's all over the road, just to try to get around their issues. I'm going to turn my mic off here, though, which has plenty of charge, but I'm going to eat the Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts. I didn't think you wanted to listen to me, so you might have heard a little bit on the main in-car camera, because that was still picking up audio, but not right next to my head. Now the car wants me to plan a charging stop. I don't want to, but it wants me to. I won't. Because it says I have 48 miles, 43 miles to get there, though. This is turning out to be a reasonably decent guesstimate on range and full battery consumption and stuff like that. Considering I kind of just picked it more or less from random. Work zone will probably help range a little bit. But yeah, this system, much more predictable than Teammate. I like the idea that Teammate had LiDAR, but I don't see a lot of real practical use with it, at least with how it has it implemented. And it might be because there's in so few cars, they're not collecting a lot of data. It won't show up super well on camera, but this ultra deck low maintenance end of thing, like it's this young guy kind of flirting with this woman on a deck, I guess. I don't know, it's at Menard. Not really sure what was going on with that. Maybe I'll try to zoom in on it when I edit this video just so you can see it. It was really weird. Like it had a real 60s like vibe to it, like a trad wife vibe. I can't believe I just used trad wife on a video, but I did. There you go. Like what's interesting is like this back to RV talk, like this Flagstaff Forest River, dual axle trailer, fifth wheel. So you have to tow it with a heavy duty truck. That truck's not squatting much, but like it's a fairly short trailer. Maybe there's a decent amount of room inside compared, especially with the tip out, you know, compared to like an Airstream. But the Airstream's you can go much longer than that and not have to tow it with a dual, well, not necessarily a dually truck, but like a heavy duty truck with a fifth wheel. And you really can't get a fifth wheel with a half ton. Titan XD, is it a half ton? Is it not a half ton? It's not. But I mean, maybe, but it's still pricing on Titan XD and stuff like it just didn't make a ton of sense. So I would just go to a Ram heavy duty. I think if I needed to tow a fifth wheel. I don't know, I see value in it, but you got to worry about, you know, height when you're towing, and you're just less efficient, things like that. It just, oh, yeah, more family space, but I think that, I don't know, I think I'd still do an Airstream. Other than a lot of money. They hold their value, so there you go. Well, you just park your Airstream at a friend's house, dry dock there forever. That could work. Oh, what is that? It's an off-road dirt park. That looks cool. It's RVs there too. Oh, interesting. Outside of Delta, I don't know what it is. The one thing about doing RV stuff with a full dedicated BEV is, let's say you had a Lightning or a Silverado EV, and you go to an RV park that has power, that has shore power. You don't plug your RV into the shore power. You plug your RV into your truck, and then you charge your truck from the shore power. That is the secret, because you always have enough shore power running, because you can run, again, 9 kilowatts or more. Plenty to run your RV, and then you're just pulling the juice from the wall into your truck. Your truck is charged. So when you do leave the next day, you got a full charge. Or whenever you leave, you got a full charge. Power goes off the RV park, you still have a full truck's battery on board to charge the RV. Plus solar. That's, friend, is the secret sauce. It's like a Silverado RST or a Lightning or whatever, and an Airstream. The Airstream is just plugged into the Lightning, and then the Lightning's plugged into the shore power. Bingo. Boom. RV hack. 32 miles of range. Well, I'm sorry, 35 miles of range, up to 42 max, 32 miles of range, 8 miles till the charging stop. So in theory, I pull in with 3 miles of range left. That's pushing it a little close. There's a battery alert. Reserve level charge, high voltage battery. 25 miles to the destination, 28 miles of stated range. Dun 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 dun. Maybe I'll put some dramatic music in here. No, probably not. Probably won't be doing that. He keeps asking if I want to turn the Eco Climate on to gain 1 mile of range. I do not. It's interesting because if I go into the display in front of me, range, it says destination is within range. So I don't know why it's prompting this additional sort of stuff. Because everything will be okay. Gone 250 miles, like I said, plus probably 1 mile, maybe 251. 3 hours, 34 minutes, 70 miles per hour average, 245 watt hours per mile. We're approaching our last bailout spot, which is the Flying J GM Energy station that I sometimes use, which I don't need the canopy today. It's weird when trying to pick charging spots, because like, do I go there? That's a not toll road, so there's probably more people driving along it. So potentially more people would pull in to use it, because both stations that I'm going to use, or that I use regularly, are load balanced, which means that it shares a total power output with the station, with the stall next to it. And so if two people plug into the same basic circuit, then it splits that 350 kilowatt maximum amongst two cars. Now, if those two cars are both 100 kilowatt max cars, don't matter. But since like this one will do like 170, some we do will do over 200. Like we want to make sure that if we're on a load, we try to not go to a load balance charger. But if we do, we want to try to make sure we're choosing one that it's not sharing circuitry with. So the charger in Ypsilanti we use, even though it says, there's a sticker on it that says balance, the display doesn't say balance. And there's an odd number of chargers there. So this one is most likely the odd man out, the one that isn't sharing a load with somebody else, circuit-wise, we think. And so far that one's been pretty reliable. But all three of these new chargers at this space all say they're balanced. So I don't know if that one that we have up there at the Ypsilanti one we go to, if that's just an odd circuit out, because maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it's just worded weird. Maybe it's balanced and it just doesn't say it on the display. And all of these are real possibilities. But so far we've had good luck there. And this one's, these are all I'm going to assume say balanced, so they are balanced. Maybe it's one circuit sharing all three. I don't think that's the case, but maybe that's the case. Another work zone, but I don't think this is a real work zone. Oh no, it is. Oh no, it's not. Like it says right here, get over, and then the lane's not actually closed. At no point is the lane closed. That boom noise is so silly when you put your foot all the way down. So silly. I know you can't hear it. I'm sure you can't hear it. So just some quick maths, 307 miles of EPA stated range. I think our computer said 305 when we started. We've gone 260 miles and we're at 6% state of charge with 16 miles left. So 276 is what it's guessing based on sort of all the current math. 276, 277. There might not be a bunch of reserve left in it. I don't know. It's interesting. But that would be fairly close to the stated range. 3 hours and 43 minutes, 70 miles an hour average speed. It's like, oh, you don't want to be in the right lane. I mean, I do kind of want to be in the right lane. And it's like, no, you don't. But I could fight it. I could go back. And then it would just put me back in this lane. So it's lane discipline. The drive assist lane discipline is a little interesting. If there's a 3 lanes of highway, it will always try to put you in the middle lane instead of always in the right lane. I'm assuming it does that because of oncoming traffic, like coming off of on-ramps and stuff. But like, I can't force it into that right lane. Because if I were to right now indicate to the right and have it lane change over, once I get past this Kia Sportage, it's gonna probably will put me back in the left lane, even though there's no traffic. Earlier, it passed an invisible car. That was interesting. Like there was nobody on the side or anything to avoid. Like it was just invisible car. Hey, I'm gonna overtake it. It definitely avoids the far left lane unless you're overtaking. It is pretty good at that, but it definitely favors, on 3 lanes, favors the inside lane until it thinks it's about time for you to exit. See, like now, it's going back over. If it knows you need to exit, it will then move you into the right lane. 7.7 miles, destination, 8 according to the sign, 11 indicated. Plenty of range, all the range. 3% state of charge. Now it's starting to look a little gloomy. Sunny earlier. Missed the sun. So he gave me the drive assistance final verdict. I think it's pretty good. The Mercedes overall verdict. I like it. It's comfortable. I think it's a little bit steep of an asking price. Now you wouldn't need all the features that this car has, but for a base model rear drive, I feel like 80 is a bit much. 70 is probably right on par. What would you cross shop this with? An iX for sure. Maybe an electrified GV70. I think I like the electrified GV70 a lot. I think it's as comfortable. The driver assist tech isn't quite as good as what's in here. The Genesis doesn't do the lane changes. The Genesis will charge quicker. It'll do 10 to 80 in 18 minutes, 235 kilowatt peak. The Genesis real disadvantage though, at whatever, 66 or whatever it is that it will only go like 230 some miles. Big wheels, it's fairly inefficient. This gets you a lot more range. This car errs more on the side of comfort. If you're looking for sporty, the iX is probably the way you'd want to go. Power and performance, it's enough. Really, you don't need more than the 268 or whatever that this car has. It's just that when you drive other EVs of similar pricing, you get a lot more acceleration. Don't need it. Don't think you need it, but it's also something you might notice if you've driven some other cars. So just something to keep in mind. Would I buy it? I would definitely shortlist it. I would put it on Not to sound like a Matt Watson at Car Wow, but I would shortlist it. I think there's a lot of clever stuff going on here. I wouldn't get it with all of these options. And if you want a Mercedes, it's a pretty nice Mercedes. All right, 2% state of charge, 4 miles left of range, allegedly 4 to 6, 2.1 according to the nav computer. Rock on. Really actually kind of impressed with myself picking a destination that would get it this close. So yay me, go me. 1% state of charge. Oh, that's interesting. It's not specifically saying it's limiting power on this display. On the other display it will, but on this display it shows that there's a line at 40. So it's only gonna give me 40% max power if I put my foot into it right now. See, hey, it put me in the right lane because it knows I need to exit up here.
In half a mile, keep right. Please follow the right.
Wide open acceleration right now, 75 miles an hour. It's slightly creeping up. Like I said, 40% max power. But that's fine because, as you can see, it's time to exit with this beautiful augmented reality display. We've got 2 miles left, 1% state of charge, but I'm here.
Now keep right.
I made it. Woo! Was there any doubt? No, there was no doubt.
500 feet, keep left. Now keep left. 40, turn slight right and then immediately turn right. Now turn slight right.
Now there's probably not enough range to make it to the other side of the highway. The rear axle steering, rear wheel steering is so great. Really, backup camera's great. There's a lot to like about this car. Here we go, I'll do some rough math for you guys for the closing stand-up. Thanks for coming along with the journey, and, you know, if you like this kind of content, let me know. Like I said, I'm gonna go do some math so I can tell you how it did. Well, that was a long morning. Let's go over some stats. This EQE SUV 350 Plus has a 96 kilowatt hour battery pack. We averaged 346 watt hours per mile over a total drive of 272 miles. That drive took us right around 3 hours and 53 minutes, and our average speed was right on the nose at 70 miles an hour. Doing some conversion, that means we did 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour, meaning over the 96 kilowatt hours of the pack, we should be able to get 278.4 miles out of a full charge, completely empty, on the type of test that we did. The EPA says it'll do 307 miles. Now, that's an EPA mix that includes highway and city driving, where we did all highway driving. There was roughly, according to the onboard computer, 2 or 3 miles left of range. This actually jives with the 6 miles that our calculation said we would have left on the pack. So a couple of things we learned. One, car's pretty efficient at nearly 3 miles per kilowatt hour at the speeds we were driving. That's not bad. Also, the guessometer on board is pretty accurate, so you can trust that what it says is how far you'll go. Now, the downside is we're not really sure how much extra range is in the pack. When we pulled into this charging station, we were already limited to 40% of our total available power. So it means we were getting pretty low in the pack. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a buffer of only 1 or 2 miles instead of maybe 10. If you want to learn more about the sedan version of this car, Craig did a full review of the EQE sedan, not SUV, and you can watch that video by clicking the link right over here.